Let's see. So network, I call it networks and tipping point. This is not from the textbook, but from a different uh, industrial organization source that I sourced this from. And so, has anybody studied the economics of networks before? No? So the way it works is you have here this box, right? So how do you get in the box in the first place? That's always the question. But that's where entrepreneurship comes in, and trial and error and market tests. And here, 0 to 1 probability, 0 to 1 probability. So we're looking at technology A. So here is the vertical axis is probability that a new customer will choose A. And then here, the technology A's share of recent sales or online membership or Google use. Yeah. 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 Yes. Yeah, that's all right. And I can edit it, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it's recording. Yeah, that's recording. Okay. So this would be right. So you have Microsoft and Apple fighting it out, right? So during this period, you're having competition between technologies, and the whole idea behind the network effects is that the more people are a member of the network, the more valuable it is. Like a fax machine is no good when you're the only one with the fax machine. Or this smartphone's no good if you're the only one with the smartphone. Or the browser's no good unless it's populated with big data, right? So network effects. Then technology A's share of recent sales. So here, there's during the competition period, you have price elasticity of demand greater than 1. But then the value of the network isn't so great. Then, for example, Netscape. I don't know if anybody remembers Netscape. Came out and first graphical browser in the internet was probably about 2001. And then Netscape, of course, has been overcome during creative destruction by Google, and then now Microsoft has a new browser that I've tried to use, and does Microsoft Edge, and it just doesn't seem to work as good as Google. So here, as more and more people choose one technology over another, you get a tipping point to where now this technology is dominant. And again, this is mainstream neoclassical economics and ignores the first mover advantage and first mover disadvantage that we talked about. But so here you get the tipping point, and now the price elasticity of demand is less than 1. So now you have the firm with pricing power. Prior to that, you had consumer sovereignty. But at the same time, now the network is worth more because of the externalities of it. The more people that use a network, you get positive externalities, the more value there is. Like I told you on my Amazon that they recommended me to use a different type of tennis balls because they knew my data, right? So you get into this tipping point or lock-in point. And so it's all about customer expectations and marketing and word of mouth. Like, you go see a film. I guess Rotten Tomatoes people used to see films, but word of mouth is very important, especially in social media development, social media and entertainment, things like that, word of mouth. So for whatever reason or whatever time you get a tipping point where now it's seen by regulators that the firm now has monopoly power. So for the user, and again, I'm arguing from a free market economist perspective, that networks give you positive externalities, the network effects, especially in the smart economy like we have today. But for regulators, it's negative externalities because it's seen that the people have market power. And again, there's nobody preventing us from creating a browser that we don't sell or use your data. Okay, so then the question is, the exploratory question, does this network effect and tipping point, does that create a natural monopoly? Like Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon, and sometimes Microsoft. And I just read something from Law and Liberty. Has anybody seen Law and Liberty publication you can get every day? It's published by the Liberty Fund Books, Liberty Fund Foundation. They're the ones that publish all the classical liberal thinkers at reduced prices. Liberty Fund, they have Law and Economics, and they talked about how recently the Department of the district or the general attorney of the U.S. government was that Department of Justice brings a lawsuit against Google over the last few weeks. And the author was saying why that's a good thing to work it out in the courts as opposed to some new government regulatory body where the churning administrative state then creates a new type of antitrust specifically for this smart economy. So then the question is, and only you can answer that question depending on your own views, is this tipping point meaning a natural monopoly requiring regulation? So if you're the state regulator and you're the hammer, then everything looks like a nail. So of course it does. And there's examples over history. The main example that people use is this QWERTY, which is the way a keyboard is put together. How and why did that develop? And there's been a lot of research on that. And then VHS versus Beta, as that was being, and then the operating systems, IBM versus Mac, and I guess there's room enough for more than one in the box. So the box is three-dimensional, I guess. And then the length of CDs when that technology was evolving, and it turned out, I think, that the length of this original length of the CD was determined to be the length of a Beethoven symphony or something like that. and then the development of MP3 and MP4 files, which then, of course, there's huge network effects, especially in film and music sharing. Container shipping, which was really one of the major breakthroughs of the increased standards of living of the 20th century. The laying of train tracks, all of these things are emerged properties without central planning. Or I learned this from Hayek's, and Hayek uses train tracks and building supplies as an example of the positive externalities of networks. And then browsers, which we're seeing now, do they need to be regulated, or why and for whom and what reason? So I guess that's all I wanted to say about networks. Economics of networks. Does anybody have any comments or questions, suggestions?